16 athletes put into random brackets, and they engage in combat. And we decide who survives. In athletes' combat. All right, the number 1 seed, Marvin Harrison, taking on the number 16 seed, Jim Leyritz. Now, this is interesting because Marvin Harrison, pretty clean-cut guy when he was in the NFL. You know, big-time Peyton Manning receiver.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, interviews you'd see him in. Totally normal guy.
Right.
And then after he retired, just things happened. But they said, you know, he had owned quite a few businesses in Philly.
Right, yeah. It looked like he owned, you know, sports bars, garages, you know.
And I know car washes, too. Yeah,
car washes, yeah. It seemed like, you know, he would definitely like to spread money on, you know, small businesses.
Yeah.
If you got multi-million-dollar contracts, what a better way to launder your drug money.
He called Saul.
Yeah, he had some interesting run-ins. You know, he got sued by a guy that he had an argument with. Guy ended up getting shot, and said it was Harrison that had shot him. They never could prove conclusively that it was Harrison. And then I guess a year later, this guy gets shot and killed like 2 streets down from the bar that Harrison owns. And I guess after the surgery, the guy told detectives that it was Marvin Harrison's, his crew or whatever. And then an informant said it was actually Harrison's cousin that had done it. Just a bunch of wild shit. You know, I don't think Harrison ever got charged with anything.
Is that what millions will do for you?
I guess.
Yeah.
You know, you got enough name recognition and, you know, don't make me get Johnny Cochran out here.
Yeah.
That's enough to probably make a district attorney a little bit wary.
So former football player, he's a gun guy, though.
Loves his guns.
Yeah. And he's 6 foot 185, you say?
Yeah, 6 foot 185. Not a real big guy.
Well, Mr. Leyritz, he's listed 6 foot 190. So give or take, we're a mirror match up here.
Right.
Leyritz likes his drinking.
Oh, yeah.
All right. He was arrested on suspicion of drunk driving and vehicular homicide after his car struck another woman's car. That woman was not wearing a seatbelt. She got ejected from the car and died at the scene. Leyritz was released on $11,000 bond, which he had, you know, being an MLB player and everything.
Just in the wallet, 11 grand?
Probably.
Damn.
Police collected 2 blood samples from Leyritz. The first was a .14 and the second was a .13. Well, here's the twist. The woman he hit was a .18.
Oh.
They were all legally drunk at the time of this collision.
Yeah, so who was at fault at that point?
He was acquitted on DUI manslaughter charge in less than 45 minutes, but was convicted after 2 days of deliberations on a misdemeanor charge of the DUI. He settled a civil lawsuit for the accident, $350,000 to the other person's family. Leyritz in 2009 was hospitalized, and he was threatening suicide.
Oh, man.
But he later said he wasn't suicidal, but he was stressed out because when he attempted to start his car, the alcohol monitoring device didn't let him. Stressed him out, man.
Yeah. Well, and then all that CTE from that car accident he had prior.
Yeah, because that bitch was drunk.
Yeah, it just triggered him.
Well, then Leyritz was arrested in his home. He was free on bail from his manslaughter charge when cops showed up and responded to a domestic disturbance. Him and his broad were arguing over child support, and he struck her in the face twice, allegedly. He pushed her down to the ground, allegedly, because she wrote a check without his permission. She said that he drug her out of bed and pushed her against the wall. Well, how do you know that wasn't just some foreplay? You know what I'm saying? We don't know.
I mean, he got his lessons from Manson.
The couple had 3 kids who were sleeping when officers arrived. So, I mean, how crazy of a fight could this be? Right? Come on.
Yeah, kids didn't ever hear it. Must have been some pretty soft slaps.
So, what do you say here? These two guys, I mean, nothing crazy. These two guys aren't maniacs or anything. So, it's an even first round matchup. Someone will go through kind of easy. Similar height, similar weight. One likes guns, one likes booze. Obviously, Leyritz will put his hands on a woman, Obviously, Harrison's probably a little more aggressive, you would think, just based off his news stories that, maybe he didn't have nothing to do with it. Whereas Leyritz is getting caught with everything he's doing. I would think Harrison's a better athlete, being a wide receiver over a infield.
Well, yeah, in a sport that you have to be very, very explosive in.
Yeah.
I would almost give the edge to Harrison.
Yeah, not a whole lot separating these two. I think the speed and aggression and the business savvy.
He's going to pistol whip the shit out of Leyritz.
Well, he brought the gun to the island?
Well, yeah.
Man.
If the police don't still have it.
Well, hopefully they didn't drop off a car for Leyritz on this island, because you're going to hit him.
Yeah. He'll run his sober ass over.
Anyway, let's move it on. The 1 seed, Marvin Harrison, goes to the second round. Next up, the 8 seed, Maurice Clarett, takes on the 9 seed, Scott Steiner. Now, when we saw this matchup, I was thinking, holy shit, this is going to be crazy. Now, Maurice Clarett, he was supposed to be like the next big thing when he was coming out of Ohio State. It just didn't end up that way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he won a national championship as a freshman, 2002. He was Big Ten Freshman of the Year that year, all Big Ten, same year. Wasn't there some controversy whenever, I think he tried to declare for the draft early, didn't he? And the NFL has certain rules, like you have to be removed out of high school for at least 3 years.
2 or 3 years, wasn't it? Something like that. Yeah, I can't remember now. It was a while ago.
Yeah, and I think he was in a fight with the NFL because he was trying to go earlier than what the rules allowed.
Yeah.
But, so anyways, I think he ended up getting drafted in 2005, round 3, 101st overall, which is weird considering the talent that he had. Ended up going to the Broncos. Never played it down. I think he was just on the practice squad or whatnot.
Man.
His troubles started in 2006. January 1st, 2006, cops were looking for him for some kind of armed robbery. Took place outside the Opium Lounge Dance Club in Columbus. Clarett turned himself into police the next day, 9 p.m. He faced 2 counts of aggravated robbery. Was released on a $50,000 bond. So there's a whole flurry of activity. He wanted to plead not guilty to this whole thing. By late July, he fires his 2 lawyers, just like 2 weeks before a trial date. Right? They had filed a motion with the judge because apparently he wasn't paying their bills and he wasn't cooperating for his own defense. So they wanted to get away from him. He turned around and fired him. So that was July 26th of 2006. He fires his lawyers. At a status hearing on August 9th of 2006, the judge increased Clarett's bond from like $50,000 to $1.1 million.
Oh.
This was due to Clarett's arrest earlier that morning, and the judge actually ordered him to undergo a mental health evaluation. Now, what was he doing that morning? So he was arrested in Columbus after he made an illegal U-turn and led the police on a chase until he finally hit a spike strip, and it all ended. So apparently he was spitting on the police. They had to put a gag on him so he'd stop spitting on him. They discovered a katana, a Zanbato, and a loaded AK-47 variant, 2 loaded handguns, along with an open bottle of Grey Goose.
Hell yeah, a katana.
So they're not real sure, but they thought he might be going to intimidate witnesses for his armed robbery trial, because where he made the illegal
intimidate
U-turn,
witnesses in an armed robbery trial by showing up armed, huh?
Right.
I mean,
I guess he was a very, very short distance away from one of the principal witnesses.
Oh, okay.
Whenever he made the U-turn.
Okay.
And so police saw it and tried to stop him. So I think he ended up getting 7.5 years. Yeah, he made a plea bargain. Sir, he was supposed to serve 7.5 years, could get out early for good behavior after 3.5. So I believe he's kind of cleaned up his act since then. They say he's quite entrepreneurial now.
Oh yeah,
he come out 2010.
He sells katanas.
Yeah, he makes and sells them. 2012, he was invited back to Ohio State to celebrate their 10-year anniversary of winning.
I bet.
He spoke with a crowd of about 500 people about the depression that he suffered through, the conflicts that he had, the life that he had lived post-college. I guess he goes around now and he's telling his life story, and he's a very highly sought-after motivational speaker at this point.
Turned it around a little bit, huh?
Turned it around, so good for him.
Okay, well, he's taking on Scott Steiner. Real name, Scott Reck Steiner. Which I guess you just take a few letters off that and, you got it. Now, Clarett went to Ohio State. Scott Steiner went to rival Michigan.
Big rival.
Where he was an All-American in wrestling, which that's no easy feat. He was around 190 pounds in college. Well, that changed when he hit pro wrestling. He's 6'1", 280.
Holy.
Now, I was a wrestling fan, big wrestling fan when Scott Steiner was at the height of his career. Do you know people would dare accuse him of steroid abuse?
I could see how.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it because he had somehow grew mountains upon mountains of biceps?
Right. Wasn't he the one that he had like a bicep growing out of his bicep?
Yeah. And he could kiss it. He could kiss, one of the other little biceps that were growing on the bigger bicep.
Right. He could make the little bicep kiss the bigger bicep.
Oh, it was fucking insanity, man.
Yeah. I remember him very early on in the early wrestling days.
Well, he had long hair and he was athletic dude flying around.
Wore the headgear, the singlet. He did the whole wrestler kind of mantra.
Yeah, I think he had the leather jacket, the Michigan leather jacket and stuff.
Yeah.
And then he went away and came back 100 pounds more muscle. And then he had the no hair, the bleached hair.
All natural. Wearing chainmail.
Yeah. But he was awesome, dude. Yeah, he's so fucking awesome. He's one of those guys that, like, when he threatened to hit a fan, you fucking believed it because he would be slobbering all over fans and, like, getting as close as you can to, killing some of these people. I mean, he was insane. In 98, he threatened a Georgia Department of Transportation employee after the employee informed him that the exit ramp was closed. He hit the employee twice with his F-250 pickup truck. He was arrested and pleaded guilty in 99 to aggravated assault and making terroristic threats, both are which felonies. But since he was a first offender with doing this, he got like 200 hours of community service, 10 days in jail, $25,000 in fines, things like that.
It's not bad.
That's really not too bad for making terroristic threats. Now, what do they mean by that? What could that have been?
Terroristic threats. He probably just threatened the guy's life.
That's what it'd be, right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of an awkward name for it.
Well, typically, because it carries a heavier sentence whenever you can call it terroristic threats.
Okay, so the Sportster had all these stories about him. I'm just going to go through a few. So, pro wrestlers had promoters. Well, I guess promoter Bill Watts, when he was running WCW, carried a gun. And that's because he was scared of Scott Steiner. And what he would do backstage, right?
Right.
Supposedly Scott Steiner went and confronted Ric Flair and was just ripping on him, insulting him, getting in his face and everything. And it left Ric Flair in tears.
Interesting.
He's been known to... I guess run red lights and stuff. He's kind of a crazy driver. During a tour, Scott Steiner and several others strung a wrestler upside down in a bathroom with tape, which was kind of crazy because he's a bigger wrestler. And Scott Steiner proceeded to piss all over the guy.
Oh my God. I would say none of this was induced by roid rage.
Scott Steiner another time taped up a wrestler to the wall and stuck a pencil into his asshole.
What the hell? Number 2, Ticonderoga?
Sodomy. Oh, yeah, the good time?
Yeah.
Yeah, only the best.
Or did he get one of those, like, those carnival fucking big-ass, huge, thick pencils?
One time in a match, he was kicked in the throat and he was coughing up blood. They had to induce a coma on him.
Oh, wow.
So that was crazy. He almost died during that because of his trachea. So Diamond Dallas Page, he's kind of a big yoga instructor now. Back in the day, his wife found some drug paraphernalia backstage and claimed it belonged to Sonny, who actually just killed someone in a drunken driving accident like a month ago or something, to try to get her fired. Steiner wouldn't stand for this injustice. He then chased DDP's wife around and out of the building. Well, DDP wanted to protect his wife and decided to confront Scott Steiner. A fight ensued, and Steiner used his amateur wrestling background, and once he got him down, was trying to remove both of DDP's eyes by ripping them out of socket. At the airport, he saw Hulk Hogan's wife at the time, because, hasn't he had a couple? He proceeded to tell her that he was going to kill Hulk Hogan the next time he saw her. And, she felt threatened and all other shit. This last one, you know how back in the day they used to have to drive from city to city to wrestle? Scott Steiner and his brother would drive together, and Rick would hang out the window. If they saw other wrestlers driving, they would try to speed up beside the other wrestlers. And they'd reach to the other car and try to open the door and grab at the other terrified wrestlers inside. They would also throw stuff at vehicles and just be kind of bullies about stuff.
They seem like hooligans.
Yeah.
Engaging in a lot of ballyhoo and tomfoolery.
There you go. So there you have it. You drop both of these guys off on an island.
Man, I tell you what, they both seem unhinged. Maurice Claret's he's not all there. He's out robbing people and running around with AK-47s. Yeah. A katana.
But remember, on this fantasy podcast, you're not bringing any of that stuff. You got to leave your katana at home. It's whatever you find on that island.
True. So what did we say? Maurice Claret, 5'11", 220. Scott Steiner.
In his prime. 6'1", 280.
That is
of muscle.
Yeah, oh yeah. An extra 50 pounds of muscle.
Wrestling background. Is a dick. We'll try to scoop your eye out.
Yeah, Scott Steiner seems especially unhinged.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just like the soy-based diet that he's on.
Yeah.
The keto.
The Hot Rocks back when it was legal.
The Hot Rocks, the packages of tuna. Or it could just be the fucking roids.
It could be. If you
roided out of his skull.
These are allegations. You know that.
Just right? An allegation. I think Scott Steiner beats Maurice Claret within an inch of his life.
Yeah, he's gonna have a lot to speak about when he goes back to Ohio State, if he can.
Yeah.
From the wheelchair. When he types on his pad like Stephen Hawking.
Because he can't speak anymore?
So number 9, Scott Steiner. He's moving on. Marvin Harrison, run. All right, next up, this is highly anticipated. The number 4 seed, Aaron Hernandez, taking on the number 13 seed, War Machine. Now, looking at this initially, I thought there would be a bigger size discrepancy than there is. 6'1", 5'11". Now, the weight, because, one was an NFL player and one was, cutting weight to fight. The weight's quite a bit different. But that's about it. But I thought it was going to be a lot more until we looked it up. So tell us about Aaron Hernandez.
So Aaron Hernandez, he kind of grew up in a troubled home. His mom and dad, they fought a lot. They filed for bankruptcy, divorced, got back together, divorced again. According to Hernandez, His dad always pushed him and his brother to excel in school and sports whenever he felt like they weren't trying hard enough. I guess he got physically abusive with them. And they lived in constant fear of their father, according to other family members, but they also revered him. Whenever Aaron Hernandez was 16 years old, his father passed away from complications of a surgery, and everyone says that that deeply affected him, and he engaged in more criminal activity. He pulled away from his mom, moved in with his cousin. Then it came out that his cousin's husband and his mom were having an extramarital affair. So that enraged him even more. Got further into criminal activity. So he had a lot going on. I guess he got involved in some gangs. Apparently at one point, he's had a lot of run-ins in the law. He's done some overnighters, a little bit of time. At one point he told somebody that he was part of the Bloods street gang, that's pretty notorious. But I guess the biggest thing was, he went to Florida. He got in some trouble in Florida. There was some bar fights. There was shootings that he was supposedly involved in, but cops could never pin it on him. So he graduates from Florida, gets drafted in 2010 by the Patriots. He's just a beast of a football player. I mean, he was a very amazing tight end. He was fun to watch. The guy was talented. But you have the story of Odin Lloyd, who I believe was dating his sister. And I'm not sure if Hernandez actually killed Lloyd or hired somebody to kill Lloyd. But he was arrested for that during the off-season of 2013. And then come to find out there was 2 other murders that he was charged with. I believe it was back in his hometown of Bristol, Massachusetts.
Well, they said that he hung out with a bad crowd and kind of followed what they did. So
whenever he got to the Patriots, he hired some buddies from Bristol to be his assistants. And one of them was a known drug dealer who would, a few of his many duties was calming him down whenever he was in a rage and getting drugs and guns for him. So much so
that goes hand in hand, huh?
Right. So much so that he actually had a secret apartment where he stashed all of his guns and his drugs and kept it hidden from his fiancée at the time. So he goes to prison. He gets convicted of first-degree murder. The other 2 murders in Bristol, he was acquitted from those. I guess there wasn't enough evidence to convict him. But he commits suicide in 2015. And that's that on Aaron Hernandez.
All right, John Copenhaver, a.k.a. War Machine. Now, he was born in a Los Angeles suburb, and his father was an officer for the LAPD. His mom was a nurse, but she likes the drugs. So War Machine had to take care of his siblings. And at age 13, he suffered horrific trauma when he unsuccessfully performed CPR on his father, who died of a heart attack. So, a little bit of correlation there. This would be a little bit more intense to me, but whatever. He eventually went on to become a mixed martial artist. He fought in UFC. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Now, this was interesting. His MMA career, he went 14-5. But his 14 wins, none of them were decisions. It was either submissions or KOs. And that's kind of rare, especially for 170 pounds. He was in 13 adult films. Getting his fuck on. Just dropping hammer on these girls. But before that, he was found guilty of striking a Las Vegas man in the face and choking him unconscious during a parking lot scuffle. There, he got 3 years of probation and 30 days of community service. Then, he was sentenced to a year of county jail for felony assault stemming from a fight at a bar. So don't fuck with him in a bar. This was interesting, though. So he was mostly in solitary confinement. And after going to jail, War Machine maintained his Twitter account as well as a blog documenting his time in jail. So they just let him, kind of.
Here's your phone. Check it out from the library.
Yeah, so he had his own little show going on.
Once you're done blogging, turn it back in. There's other inmates that got a blog too.
Yeah. Don't use up all the battery.
Yeah.
You got a blog, man.
Yeah. We only have 6 gigs of data. Share it.
So anyway, like I said, he was a porn star. He met another porn star, Christy Mack. Well, this didn't go great. She was 10 years his junior, but she was actually a leading figure in porn. She was a big-time name. And he assaulted her and her then boyfriend, which we've just watched a documentary that said it was just her friend. And he beat his ass pretty good, but they were laying in bed together, and that didn't work out. So he choked him and then said, let me go. I swear I won't tell the cops. Yeah.
That's murder time for me.
Yeah. Oh, I won't tell the cops. Oh, I didn't know you were thinking of that way. So I guess he beat on this girl for, they said, 2 full hours. And if you go look at the pictures, I mean, her eyes are shut, her teeth are knocked out. They said she had a mohawk, and he went and cut it with a kitchen knife, just cut it off. So he was and she escaped off a balcony naked. 18 broken facial bones, a broken nose, 12 missing teeth, a fractured rib, and her liver was critically ruptured. Not the way we do it, but...
I mean, I would say she got off pretty light.
I'm actually shocked she didn't die. This guy could have easily... I mean, I'm surprised she didn't go unconscious during this.
Yeah, they had to go back in. She had to do facial reconstruction surgery and have all new teeth set into her jawbone. That's pretty crazy. That's a hell of a beating.
Yeah, he was 36 felony counts, multiple attempted murder, kidnapping, rape, sexual assault. So when he was in jail, he was found unresponsive in his cell after the routine checks. An officer found him struggling to breathe with the torn piece of linen around the neck that was tied to the leg of his bunk bed. Oh, so he tried to do the Hernandez. After the officer cut the linen, his vitals stabilized within 15 minutes, and he was moved to a medical ward where he was placed on suicide watch. There was a suicide note found in his cell. His earliest release date is 2053. And this is weird because he still has maintained a prison blog with the assistance of a friend who types out handwritten notes provided to him. How do you see this? Two maniacs here.
War Machine, he never murdered nobody. Never got a gun, shot at nobody. Now Hernandez, the two immigrants, supposedly.
Well, that's a big word there, supposedly.
Supposedly. It was his silver SUV that pulled up beside him. Somebody hopped out and fired 5 shots into the car, killing 2 of them. Now, at one point, it was one of his buddies from Bristol that was his assistant, Bradley, that was the drug dealer. Now, they had some beef after Hernandez had shot him in the face and left him to die. But Bradley said it was Hernandez. Hernandez said it was Bradley that pulled the trigger. Hernandez, he got in a lot of fights at bars.
Yeah.
He was very aggressive. He always felt like people were trying to challenge him, trying to fight him.
These are parallel guys because,
Very parallel. I think the only difference is just the size. They are
size
both
different, but it's
aggressive.
also a skill difference out of this world.
Yeah.
A martial artist that's actually done well. Now, if Hernandez landed on him, obviously it wouldn't be great for War Machine.
Pretty sure Hernandez, he could probably do some damage if he gets a hold of you. Yeah. He's hurting you. This is a tough one, brother. It
would, and you know what's crazy now that you read about it, they tried to kill themselves in prison. One got the job done.
Yeah, Hernandez was successful. We actually did a show on that.
Yeah, Cesspool 36.
Called Hanging with Hernandez. It was a good show.
I would just, again, give the edge probably to the mixed martial artist. Just he's probably got some speed on him. He would know how to, and if it went to the ground, jiu-jitsu black belt, he could, you would think, at least cover up, at least know what to do, But it'd probably be insane for as long as it lasts.
I think this is an insane fight. Yeah. Hernandez is going to be explosive. He's going to be fast. War Machine, he's going to be quick. He's going to be crisp and concise with his fighting technique. I mean, I tend to agree with you, though. I would think the trained and seasoned fighter who is 14-5 against some of the best fighters in the world and the biggest league in the world.
Yeah, and a porn star.
Come
on.
I mean, how many porns has Hernandez been in?
0.
I think
as far as I know.
That should disqualify him from the island.
Yeah, this isn't porn combat, though.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, where Johnny Sins takes on War Machine. What do I mean by take on?
Well, that show's not going to
8-second ride. But yeah, I had the edge to War Machine, but I think this is one of the more insane fights that we've covered so far.
This is one of the tougher ones.
But I'm going the War Machine.
I think War Machine has a slight edge here.
So we'll move him along. Up next, number 5, Pat Tillman, taking on number 12, Adam Pac-Man Jones. So Pat Tillman, we just put him in here because it is an interesting story that I think as years go by, maybe people will forget.
Yeah, I hope not. I mean, Pat Tillman, kind of a hero in the sense that he grew up, he was an amazing football player. He got drafted by the Cardinals in 98, 7th round. But he got to play safety. I don't think that he was, all-star, over the top, amazingly incredible, but he was just a very talented athlete. I mean, just to get to the NFL, you got less than, 1% of the population that gets to do that?
Yeah, I think he was like a hard-nosed. He played hard, and he was a team guy, effort guy.
Right. He was very, very family-oriented. Keep in mind, this isn't your typical, like the rest of the names in this list. He valued friends, he valued family. After September 11th, he signed up, joined the Army, became an Army Ranger. Before he left, he married his high school sweetheart, longtime girlfriend, and went and served, did several tours in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Now, how he died that's real sad. Because anytime friendly fire happens, it is very unfortunate.
Yes, it was April 22nd, 2004. He was only 27 years old. But he died of friendly fire while in Afghanistan. Posthumously, he was awarded the Silver Star, the Purple Medal, Silver Star, Purple Heart, and the Meritorious Service Medal. Now, I think what kind of upset people was there was a little bit of controversy surrounding the citation on the Silver Star. It gave a detailed account of Tillman's death, including the phrase in the line of devastating enemy fire, which kind of upset the family because they were told that Tillman had been shot 3 times in the head from less than 10 yards away by friendly fire. It was his own troops that shot him. As disgusting as that sounds, it's terrible. But the family was really upset because that wasn't the real story. And they believed that they were trying to cover it up to protect the U.S. military's image because they were involved in a war in a foreign country. Tillman, he was selfless. He gave up millions of dollars, a contract to go and play a sport that he absolutely enjoyed, left his family and friends to go to a foreign hostile nation and fight. That's kind of nutty. There's not a whole lot of people that would do that. So he's kind of a rare individual. Another notable thing that I found very interesting was that Tillman was actually an atheist. He was very well read. It's claimed that he read the Bible, the Quran, the Book of Mormon. He liked Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson. So just a very educated guy, made his own decisions about his beliefs. Just not religious, but would give up his life to defend his country, his family, his friends.
Which, in a way, makes it all that much more courageous. Not even to think that there's anything afterwards and he's still willing to do that. I mean, in a way.
Right.
So, let's move on to Pac-Man Jones, a little bit different of a guy. He was raised by his mother and his grandmother. That's because his father got killed in a robbery at age 26. But Adam Jones's mother gave him the nickname Pac-Man when he was a child, saying that he would change direction as fast as a video game character. I do declare. So he's had some legal issues, but only about an hour's worth if you want to skip past me reading these. Started in 2005. On probation for a fight in West Virginia, he encountered more legal trouble before playing it down for the Titans. This is so crazy, these guys that just can't keep their nose clean of this stuff. Even when they're multimillionaires and stuff, they just keep living this lifestyle. You know, you can go and sit in your 30-room mansion and just never see anybody. But you just can't do that? Assault and felony vandalism from a nightclub altercation in Nashville. Police said Adam Jones was belligerent after being told to wait in line for his vehicle at the annual kickoff luncheon, where he was a guest. He refused to pay the valet that night, saying he had no cash. And then he did not even make contact with his probation officer. And he had to have his probation extended. Well, who gives a shit? He's not talking to the guy anyway, right? Then he was arrested in Georgia. Marijuana possession. Wacky tobacco. But that was quickly dismissed. Why is that, Badger? Why would that be dismissed?
Money talks, bullshit walks.
Yeah. A Cadillac with Jones's nickname Pac-Man stitched into the headrest that was seized in a cocaine bust. The car was not registered to Jones at that time, but Pac-Man told a local TV reporter it was his car and he had loaned it for a music video. He had to buy it back from a police auction. Was the cocaine still there?
Did he get the cocaine back at the auction too?
During training camp, he was arrested in Murfreesboro, Tennessee for disorderly conduct and public intoxication at a nightclub. He spit on a woman and accused her of stealing his wallet. Police said that the staff at the nightclub ordered Jones to leave several times, but he refused. He started to shout profanities at that woman. A judge gave Jones 6-month probation on a condition he stay out of trouble. I wonder if that fucking happened. You think he stayed out of trouble? Okay, well, moving on. More trouble. NBA All-Star Weekend with the Ballers. You know what I'm saying? Las Vegas. Jones was involved in an altercation with an exotic dancer at Minx, the strip club. Pac-Man Jones and American rap artist Nelly. Hell yeah, Nelly. Along with their friends, showered the stage with hundreds of $1 bills, an act known as Making It Rain. They were making it rain there. So, you know, after the dances, the dancers go and pick up the money that you threw on their naked bodies. Well, Pac-Man Jones became enraged when the dancers started taking the money without his permission. Yeah.
Was he trying to get it back?
He allegedly grabbed her by the hair and slammed her head on the stage. A security guard intervened and scuffled with Pac-Man Jones's entourage. Jones then threatened the security guard's life. So, Mitchell and a male associate left the club with a garbage bag filled with over $80,000 in cash, watches, which police later recovered. So, let me get this straight. You go to the strip club. You're making it fucking rain. Couple millionaires, living the life. Showering the naked ladies with the money. Now, I'm not a frequent. I don't go to strip clubs a lot, all right? I don't frequent them. But I'm pretty sure when you throw the money up there, it's not yours anymore.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's how it works. I don't have my boys go with a squeegee and give it back to me.
High-powered vacuum.
You know what I mean? Get that shit back, girl.
Yeah, every single one of those dollar bills has a fucking fish hook in it. All his boys, gotta be quicker than that.
Good God.
But, okay, so here's the other interesting part that I caught out of that. So there's
so much more to the story, too. There's more.
They had a bag that had $80,000 cash in it and wristwatches, which were recovered by police, meaning the wristwatches belonged to other people?
I guess. After club patrons left following the original confrontation, the club owner claimed that the person in Pac-Man's entourage returned with a gun and started firing into the crowd, damaging equipment and striking 3 people, including the security guard. The guard was shot twice, and one of the people hit was a former professional wrestler, Tommy Urbanski, and he was paralyzed from the waist down. Jones maintained that he did not know the shooter. No, I know him. See, give me that money back.
Where my wristwatch is at.
Man, Jones will be charged with 1 count of felony coercion, 1 misdemeanor count of battery, and 1 misdemeanor count of threat to life. But it didn't fucking matter. So is he keeping? You think he's done now, right?
I bet that Nashville judge is feeling pretty good about his decision. You stay out of trouble, boy.
Well,
yes, sir.
His drug dealer was wiretapped and caught him talking about betting on college games to earn quick money. That was illegally. He would face 2 felony counts with that. But see, this never leads to nothing. This was just illegal college betting. And then the pro wrestler sued Pac-Man Jones, claiming that Jones had bitten his left ankle and was responsible for the shooting.
Well, how the hell would the wrestler know he's paralyzed from the waist down?
Well, maybe before he got shot, Jones was, going to fucking town on the ankle. Maybe he tried to pick up some of those $1 bills and Pac-Man was biting his ankles.
We may need to get the Australian guy to do a rendition of this.
Jones paid $15,000 in extortion money to the alleged club shooter.
I thought he didn't know.
He didn't know him.
So how'd he pay him off? I don't know you, but here's $15,000.
A jury ordered Pac-Man Jones to pay the paralyzed pro wrestler $11.6 million.
So he extorted him too.
Yeah, he extorted him a little worse than the $15,000. And then he had to pay $1.3 million to the bouncer. So I mean, he lost a little bit of cash there.
Hence him betting on college games.
So that's probably about it. He's probably learned his lessons after that, right?
Are we betting? Oh, wait. We can't say that on air.
Jones was stopped in 2007, going 79 and a 55. Now and he was driving that car that was involved in the cocaine bust.
The one that he had to buy back?
Yeah. And he was already sought for questioning at the Atlanta strip club, the shooting there. So, bring him on in. Let's see. He punched a woman at Atlanta strip club. In 2008, Jones's $1.5 million home was in foreclosure. Well, why? Maybe because he's having to pay off paralyzed pro wrestlers $12 fucking mil. Later in 2008, he was involved in an altercation with his bodyguard in a Dallas hotel, but there was no police report nor was anyone arrested or charged. What does that mean?
His own bodyguard?
Yeah, his own bodyguard. But he entered alcohol rehabilitation after that. Goodell called the Dallas incident a disturbing pattern of behavior and clearly inconsistent with the conditions that he set for participation in the NFL. He was arrested in Cincinnati for obstructing official business, disorderly conduct, assault, and a felony charge of harassment with a bodily substance. So it doesn't really go into the specifics there. Pac-Man Jones was attacked by an Atlanta airport employee that was later arrested for assault. Oh, well, there you go. So he's actually getting attacked. And then in 2021, he was arrested in Ohio for misdemeanor assault. Here's a couple more interesting things if you're still with me. Pac-Man Jones was tag team champions with Ron Killings as Team Pac-Man and NWA TNA. He was a pro wrestler for a while. And get this, after his retirement from football, Pac-Man Jones began training to be a boxer. But he was defeated in his first amateur bout in 2021. So, I mean...
Well, how old is he by then?
He's 38.
He's getting started in amateur boxing at 38? I mean, you ain't got no more fast twitch fibers.
All right, so 5'10", 185 here.
Yeah, against 5'11", 202.
Listen, on the grounds of being a decent person, I'd like to give this to Pat Tillman, but I don't know if there's enough to really give it to him. I just kind of...
I mean, obviously, he's a superior athlete. He's no slouch. He went in, did special forces training. I mean, to be an Army Ranger, you can't be a slouch and do that.
Right.
You know, you have to be an elite soldier. That is a very elite club there. So he's trained. He's trained to kill. He's trained in weapons. He's trained to be out in multiple different types of environments.
And I'd like to think when he throws $1 bills on the stage for the strippers that he lets them keep it. You know, I'd like to think.
Well, any decent human would let the stripper keep the money.
Yeah. And I don't think he's biting dudes' ankles and shit. Because that's weird behavior.
Not unless he's lost his rifle, his knife, you know, that piano string that he keeps to silently choke somebody to death. All that's gone. Maybe he resorts to biting ankles.
I'm kind of... I mean, yeah, Pac-Man went into boxing, but if you can't win an amateur boxing match, some of those guys are scrubs. Big scrubs. And I wouldn't doubt that they didn't give him a big scrub to try to, you know, maybe move him along since he was a name, you know, and he didn't even beat that guy. So, I mean, in my heart of hearts, I hope Pat Tillman would beat this guy's ass because this guy's a dipshit. And I'd like to just move on Pat Tillman. There's just not a whole lot about him. So, I mean, Pat Tillman isn't going to win this whole thing, but at least he can win this one and get this dipshit out.
I agree with that.
So let's move on. Pat Tillman, number 3 seed Sonny Liston taking on the number 14 seed Mike Danton.
Sonny Liston, he was a great professional boxer, 6'1", you know, heavyweight, so he had to be over 201. They don't give a specific weight. But he competed from 1953 to 1970. Died January 1971. Officially, they put it down as December 30th because they think that he'd been dead for a few days before he was actually found. Oh, wow. Yeah. I guess his wife had gone on a trip and she come back and found him. He beat Floyd Patterson in 1962 to get the heavyweight title, which is, you know, Floyd Patterson was...
Big name?
Big name. Not a slump at all. Knocked him out twice in the first round. 2 different fights. Then, of course, after that, then he had to fight Muhammad Ali and fought him twice, lost twice. So he gets the title and then immediately loses it to him. There's a lot of suspicions surrounding his death. It's very, very strange. Like I stated, he was found by his wife January 5th of 1971.
Now, he liked to dabble in drugs, right?
Well, that's what the cops said. The cops had actually stated that he was known to hang out in drug houses, and they believed that he was a heroin addict. But anybody who knew him, there were several boxing trainers in the boxing world that said Sonny Liston was not into heroin. He wasn't a junkie. He hated needles. One trainer even went so far as to say that, listen, Sonny Liston had actually been in a car wreck like a month or 2 before his death. And in the hospital, they had to give him a shot because he was pretty banged up. He said that Liston complained about this. They stuck a needle in his arm, and it caused a big scar or a big scab, big bruise, something. But he complained about that more than he did the car wreck. And so whenever they found his body, they said he had tracks inside his left elbow. So that's why they were saying that he was a heroin addict, right? But this guy was saying no, it was from the hospital. He hated needles. He never wanted to ever get shots. As a matter of fact, he was supposed to take a trip, I believe it was 1962. He was supposed to go to Africa and do some tour over there. But whenever they told him he had to be inoculated against certain diseases to go to Africa, he refused to go because he didn't want to get shots.
Yeah, I get that.
He refused a lot of basic medical services for common colds because he didn't want to get shots. The police came to the home. They said they found one of the small balloons filled with heroin in the kitchen, and he had a small baggie of marijuana in his pocket. Now that's disputed by people that knew him because they also could not find any type of paraphernalia. In order to do heroin, I believe a lot of junkies usually cook it in a spoon, and then they have some type of rubber band that they wrap around their arm, some type of ligature to get the vein to pop, so they can inject it with a needle. Now, the cops didn't find any ligature. They didn't find any spoon. They didn't find any needles in the house whatsoever. Right? But they said that there was traces of heroin in his system. It was real hard to determine because they said his body had actually decomposed to where the tests were pretty inconclusive. But they believed that they saw traces of heroin.
Wow.
So who knows?
Could have been an inside job.
There are a lot of speculations out there because they think he was either into drugs and owed some money, or that he was in the mob and threatened to go public with some of the stuff that he had been doing. It was rumored that he was kind of a strong-arm collector.
Yeah, he grew up poor, so I know he did robberies and muggings. He did a lot of that when he was younger.
Oh, really?
To get by, yeah.
Didn't even state any of that. But there was some speculation. There was several different rumors about what was surrounding his death. Yeah. But one of them was that he was a collector for the mafia, and whenever he didn't feel like he was getting the cut he should have been getting, he threatened to go public, and the mob killed him. Here we are, yeah. Right. Now, officially on his
it's a hell of an enforcer, isn't it?
Right.
Usually the mob enforcers, 5'2" Billy the Rat. And now you got, ex-heavyweight champ. Oh, shit.
Yeah. Joe Pesci comes in.
Yeah, I'd rather, where's Joe? Shit. All right, so this Mike Danton guy, there's not a whole lot on him except for this story. An ex-NHL player, 5'9", 190. So he would give up a little bit of height to Sonny. His career didn't last long because when he was like 23, 24, he was arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit murder. 7 months later, he pleaded guilty for his role in a failed murder-for-hire plot that prosecutors said targeted his agent, David Frost. He got 7.5 years in prison for that. However, it turns out that his agent wasn't Danton's intended target. 5 years after he got sent to prison, Danton admitted at a parole hearing that he actually hired someone who was a police dispatcher to kill his father. So they kind of had it right and wrong. The agreement was 10 grand paid out to the person to kill his dad. Over the years, there was conversations that pointed to someone who would have interest ending his agent's life too, but that wasn't him. So that's kind of odd, right? He told the hitman to kill someone who would be in his apartment over a 2-day period. However, while the agent was there at the time, Danton confirmed at this hearing that he thought his father was a person who intended to harm him. He also explained that he hadn't talked to his father since he was 15 years old. And he even changed his last name due to the strained relationship. So that is a little extreme because, you don't talk to your dad, whatever. He's a piece of shit asshole, right? You get to the NHL. Besides the point. You haven't talked to the dude for almost a decade, but fuck it. Murder him for $10K.
Murder.
What are you doing? So that is about it. I kind of found the story interesting. That's why he's on the old athletic combat. But let's face it, he's got a bad draw here.
Yeah.
He's got a really bad draw here. And I don't even know if I should really talk much about this because Sonny Liston's going to piece this guy up quickly.
I believe so. I don't think it lasts even 2 minutes.
No. We're going to move on. Sonny Liston. All right, up next we have Dog Killer number 6, Michael Vick, taking on number 11, Rulon Gardner.
I mean, you got Vick, who's very accomplished NFL quarterback, 6 foot, 210, amazing quarterback at Virginia Tech. And it's interesting to go through and look at all this stuff. Like they have different, obviously, Wikipedia breaks down stuff into like subcategories. But early controversies of that time that he flipped off fans at the Saints game.
Yeah.
But there was one really funny one. In March of 2005, a woman by the name of Sonia Elliott had filed a civil suit against Vic, alleging that he gave her genital herpes. And that was he gave it to her in 2002. Never informed her of the disease. Elliott further alleged that Vic had visited clinics under the alias Ron Mexico to get treatments and thus knew of his condition. So on April 24th of 2006, Vic's attorney, Lawrence Woodward, revealed that the lawsuit had been settled out of court under undisclosed terms. Now, for the defense of every person that has to go through being accused of things that's not necessarily true just because you have a lot of money, sometimes it's a lot cheaper to settle out of court than to go through a lengthy court process and lose or win.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes these people, I mean, look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump went through it several times. There were several women that accused him of sexual malfeasance, wanted money.
They even said it's better, even if it's fake, to nip it in the bud because before the media gets to it and everything. So
right, well,
people get paid off a lot.
Yeah, I always found the funniest one that I found was the gal that wrote the book. What was her name? Accusing Donald Trump.
Stormy Daniels?
Stormy Daniels. She lost that case so bad, she was actually ordered to pay Trump's bills, his lawyer bills, because she had lied and made a bunch of stuff up. So not always is this stuff true. But I found this story especially funny. So the lawyer settled out of court. Many fans had gone to NFL.com and bought custom jerseys with Vic's number 7 on it. And they put the name Mexico on the back. Now, I don't know, that must have been a tribute in support of Michael Vick.
Yeah.
But the NFL later banned customizing jerseys with the name Mexico on them. So I thought that was a story I never knew about, but I found that one kind of funny. I think the biggest controversy that Vic had was the dog fighting. There was a warrant executed on his property in April of 2007 as part of a drug investigation into Vic's cousin. And I guess they found a bunch of evidence of illegal dog fighting, gambling.
Vic always operated with the ignorance. Never knew anything about anything. Oh, my truck's out here. You're doing dirt in my truck. I didn't know nothing about it. I don't know nothing about my house. I don't know nothing about the yard. I don't, I know nothing. That's how he's always operated.
Even his own family had come out and said that they had warned him against doing this type of behavior, had asked him to stop, and they said that was just his thing. He liked the dog fighting. He actually ran it was a venture known as Bad News Kennels, where he handled the money. He funded it all on his own. He was very, very involved in the process. They were going to indict him under RICO provisions in federal law, which that's a big, big deal. I mean, you get hit with RICO, that's almost guaranteed conviction status right there. But I guess that him and 3 co-defendants all had separate plea bargains. So all of them were expected to get somewhere around 1 to 5 years in prison. And I guess Vic filed plea documents in the federal court where he pled guilty to conspiracy to travel in interstate commerce in aid of unlawful activities and to sponsor a dog in an animal fighting venture. It's a pretty long provision in the U.S. Code there. He admitted to providing most of the financing for the operation and to participating directly in several dogfights in Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina, and South Carolina. Get a little more into this than what he admitted. He admitted to sharing the proceeds from these dogfights. He further admitted that he knew his colleagues killed several dogs who did not perform well. He admitted to being involved in the destruction of 6 to 8 dogs by hanging or drowning. The victimization and killing of pit bulls was considered an aggravating circumstance, allowing prosecutors to exceed the federal sentencing guidelines for the charge. Vic denied placing any side bets on the dogfights. So on August 27th, U.S. District Judge Henry E. Hudson accepted Vic's guilty plea but reminded him He was under no obligation to accept the prosecution's recommendation of reduced sentence.
It's just so weird that this guy did this and immediately came back and got into coaching. Now he's into commentating. Like he just immediately bounced back from it. Rulon Gardner competed at the 2000 and 2004 Olympics. He won gold in 2000 and he won bronze in 2004. And this is Greco-Roman. He was unable to make the max weight limit because he wanted to come back in 2012 to compete. They wouldn't let him. But in 2004, he did a MMA fight against a Olympic gold medalist. He was trained by Randy Couture, and he won a decision, and it's one of the most boring fights you'll ever see. I think it's on YouTube if you want to go see it. He was around like 265, when he was really competing. But he was the youngest of 9 kids, and he worked on a dairy farm. He said that's where he got his strength from. He eventually even became a motivational speaker. But also, he didn't handle money too good. They had to file bankruptcy because he had $3 million in liabilities. So after the Olympics, Gardner gained 210 pounds. He was up to 474 pounds when he became a contestant on The Biggest Loser, if anyone remembers that show, season 11. Gardner shocked the trainers and staff when he said that he was quitting the show for personal reasons. But within 4 months, the guy lost 173 pounds. I mean, a lot of that show is teaching. I mean, if you remember, a lot of people that never really were athletic, just how to, like, hey, check this out. Do the row, and this will work this. You remember that.
Right. They weren't athletically inclined. They had very little willpower. They didn't understand healthy diets or healthy mentality of their body.
Yeah. You put Rulon Gardner, who is an Olympic gold medalist, in there. I can't believe he did so well. He was injured during a class show and tell when an arrow punctured his abdomen.
What?
Yeah. You remember this. Gardner went snowmobiling with some friends in the mountains. He became separated from the group. During his efforts to regain his composure, he fell into the freezing salt river with his snowmobile. Unable to move any further, he decided to build a shelter and wait for the rescue team. He was stranded for the next 18 hours. After several hours in a makeshift shelter, he stopped shivering, which led him to believe he was dying. Because that is what happens. I guess you get warm and cozy before the Reaper. When he was eventually rescued, he was experiencing hypothermia and severe frostbite. Due to that, when he removed his boots, they eventually had to amputate his middle toe on his right foot. And then he survived an aircraft crash at Lake Powell, Utah. Him and a buddy had to swim an hour in water to reach shore and then spend the night without shelter. But there was nothing life-threatening there. So, I mean, this guy...
Whenever they crashed the plane?
Yeah. He survived the crash.
And then swam an hour?
And swam the hour to shore. So kind of a crazy life, right? So, stranded on an island that this dude obviously he wouldn't even give a fuck if he was on an island. Greco-Roman gold medalist, Rulon Gardner versus Michael Vick. Now, granted, the speed should be there for Vick all night long.
Oh, yeah. I think that's what keeps Vick alive for a little while. He's just running and juking. But I think once Vick gets tired and starts to slow down, I think that's when Rulon Gardner...
I mean, this guy can build shelters after he, falls down on a...
Right, that's what I'm thinking is he's going to dive at Vick. He's going to hit him. He's going to land on top of him, but then he's going to break every bone in his body.
Yeah.
Gravy's going to start pouring out and just drown Vick.
And then, Fido gets his revenge,
Yeah.
So we're moving on. Rulon Gardner. Next up, we have the number 7 seed, Ray Carruth. He's taking on number 10, Jack Youngblood. Ray, the only thing I ever really remembered about Ray Carruth is the trunk thing.
Get in a trunk?
Yeah. Well, yeah, not just from our podcast, but I mean, just he's synonymous with trunks. But I thought he had put people in trunks. But now that we read about him, he just hid in trunks, which is funnier, with his own piss.
Right.
So he was ready to live in there. And I'm thinking in this matchup, he might have to hide back in that trunk. But tell us, Ray he's involved in some shady business.
Yeah. He was obviously he was a first-round draft pick in '97 for the Carolina Panthers. So he was a professional football player, had a little bit of money.
Made his money.
So in November of '99, near his home, he was dating a gal as a real estate agent, Sharika Adams. Pulls up in front of her, stops her car. Another car pulls up beside her.
Maybe he wanted to ask about adjustable rate mortgages or something.
Yes, because every NFL player gets adjustable rate mortgages.
He needs an arm, man.
Right. He's already got 3 of them.
Right.
But yeah, another vehicle pulled up beside him and just emptied a clip into a car.
Yeah.
End up shooting her 4 times, so she gets admitted to the hospital. Oh, she's 8 months pregnant with his child. Right? So Ray Caruth has to go and post a $3 million bail at the local police department. Yeah, he does. With the intent that if one of them dies, then he's got to go and turn himself in.
Yeah, I'm sure he meant that.
They have to do an emergency C-section to pull the baby out. Obviously, now the baby's brain damaged, has cerebral palsy because it had to survive for 70 minutes without oxygen inside the womb.
Yeah, that's sad.
That's pretty bad. Sharika, she ended up dying a month later. And Ray Caruth didn't go turn himself in.
What?
Did not turn himself in. So he fled after that, and then on December 15th, he was captured in West Tennessee. Now, can you imagine what this guy was doing? They found him hiding in the trunk of a car outside of a motel. The trunk also contained $3,900 cash, a bottle of his urine.
Well, hopefully his.
Hopefully his. Hopefully it's nobody else's. Extra clothes, candy bars, and a cell phone. Panthers released him the next day
Clark
due to moral clause in his contract. So
yeah, and then drafted Greg Hardy.
Yeah, drafted Greg Hardy shortly thereafter. So he gets sentenced to 18 years in prison. His accomplice was sentenced to 40 years or something like that. 40 years, 8 months.
Oh my God!
Well, he didn't pull the trigger, man.
Oh, yeah, no.
You know, just conspiracy.
Okay. So that's kind of the big deal with him, right? He wasn't that big of a guy because he was a wide receiver. He's a speedster, if I remember right. So he said he was 5'10", and he's a pretty slim guy. So
yeah, 5'11", 194.
We move on to Jack Youngblood, and Cracked did an article on him. The article was 5 most badass and like out of their mind athletes or something like that. Because Jack Youngblood, he's a little before our time, so I don't remember him. I don't even recall the name. Cool name, you know.
He Youngblood, man.
A drunken cowboy, is that you? Pointed a .44 revolver at Youngblood's eye and then pulled the trigger. Fortunately for Youngblood, and most unfortunately for the drunken aggressor, the gun failed to go off. Youngblood proceeded to take the gun away, knock the man out, and walk away. He played a Super Bowl with a broken leg. Boy, that shit wouldn't fucking happen now. They would be on the sidelines with Chris Dow just sitting there and not giving a shit.
NFL's quite different now than what it was before.
His fibula was snapped like a pencil during the play. Youngblood threw a plastic cast on and played. He said it felt like a bunch of knives being stabbed into your leg, but he didn't think he was going to do any more damage to it than he already did. A week later, he suited up for the Pro Bowl. So, I mean, and it's a useless game. But he said, you don't want to miss those opportunities. He then added Brett Favre as a total pussy. We don't have a whole lot of intel on either one. What do you think? You go Ray Caruth, who, you know, he has hiding skills. Or does he? Because he's probably going to be found, right? Or Youngblood, who can get injured and just keep pressing through. He's a much bigger guy, obviously.
6'4", 245, defensive end.
Yeah.
Played 14 years in the 70s and 80s. That was kind of the heyday of the NFL.
Well, the rules weren't as crazy. You'd see these, like Joe Theismann getting his...
Oh, both legs snapped.
Yeah. I mean, and there's just nothing happening.
There was just so many people that, man, you'd take a baseball bat to them and they'd still spit in your eye. Those were just guys you didn't mess with.
Well, and they also said, they would get shot up with stuff at halftime to either be mean or deal with whatever they're going through and stuff. Which, I mean, still probably happens today somewhat. Who do you have here? I think just size alone and playing through pain, probably Jack Youngblood beats the shit out of Ray Caruth. Because, there's no homies to pull up and take care of him.
Right. I mean, the only thing you can hope for is he still has a broken...
fibula.
Broken fibula, so you can outrun him.
Yeah.
But if he gets his hands on you, you're probably a dead man.
All right, moving on. Jack Youngblood. All right, to end the first round, this is a great one. Number 2 seed, CM Punk. Yeah, he's fighting again. Versus the number 15 seed, Ron Artest? Or do we have to call him that other dumb name? I don't know. Talk to me about CM Punk here. Now, he's basically a lifelong pro wrestler. And then he magically got this bug. I think after he left in 2011, he decided, well, shit, Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley, Dan Severn, Ken Shamrock, all those guys did it. Why can't I? All these actual alpha males.
Right. I mean, he started wrestling in 99.
Yeah, so he was young. I mean, pro wrestling though.
He was a pro wrestler in 99.
He has no amateur experience. So I don't know where he thought his base in MMA was going to come from.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he quit wrestling in 2014, started MMA fighting. He actually signed a contract with UFC.
Which I can't blame him. If you can go, kind of like Greg Hardy, if you can skip the line and not have to fight in these outlaw bullshit country bars and shit
get your face kicked in for $200-$300.
And supposedly he was getting $500,000 to weigh in, and then a cut of the pay-per-view, which I remember buying the first pay-per-view. I think there was other fights on it, but I was still interested because you're sitting here, you're like, man, this guy can't be good. And they brought in outside talent. Mickey Gall is still in the UFC to this day, but he's never been shit. He's kind of like a gatekeeper, middle of the road guy. Win some, lose some. But the Mike Jackson guy they brought in for that second fight, he was from the outside. And I think he maybe wanted that fight through social media or something like that. Talked a bunch of shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he wasn't nothing. I think he had maybe one fight, or maybe he had no pro fights either. So they brought in that loser. Just hoping CM Punk could do anything. And during that second fight, when he had CM Punk beat with ease, he kind of showed off on him and, stuff like that. Just still to this day, because of CM Punk, these were two of the most pathetic fights in UFC history. I mean, it's lore. It's legend. People still talk about how fucking pathetic these fights were and how bad he was even after the years of training to get ready for this. He was bad, dude. He is off the street. You can find most anybody's going to kick this dude's ass. And it's very weird because Duke Rufus runs one of the biggest schools in America. And he's worked out with that guy for years. And and who knows what he is in the gym, but he doesn't apply it when it gets to the cage. It looks bad. And those fights were bad.
He should stick with acting in the WWE.
I mean, the guy's uber successful. Props to him to even fighting, because fighting's not the funnest thing on earth. It is a rush. You know what I mean? It is. I'd never skydived, but I can tell you that's probably the same feel, because it's different. You know what I mean? So, but I never got to fight CM Punk. So that would have probably been like a carnival.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, he's 170 and
I'm 470 at this point.
470. He's a big dude.
But, anyway, so that's kind of the gist of the CM Punk. Still trains, everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Trains under Daniel Wanderlei.
There's no reason he couldn't have been better. And obviously, he didn't have a day job, so he was always there, 12 hours a day working on something. I don't know. It's very pathetic when you think about it. Because you know what? That guy's trained more than I ever have in my whole life. Times 10. You know what I mean? And you're just going, what? Okay. Maybe this isn't for you. All right, let's go to Ron Artest. This is an interesting guy, wouldn't you say so?
Ron Artest?
Yeah.
Yeah?
He was a participant in several controversial on-the-court incidents, most notably the Malice at the Palace, which we'll talk about here in a second here. But before we get to that, Artest admitted he lived a wild lifestyle as a young player, and he drank that Hennessy, man, that cognac. He drank that in the locker room when he played for the Bulls.
Okay.
What would Jordan do to that guy?
Probably
smash him in the face with it.
Dunk all over him.
He also wore his bathrobe over his practice uniform to Pacers practice as a symbolic reminder to take it easy, dog. Artest was suspended for 3 games for destroying a TV camera at Madison Square Garden and 4 games for confronting Coach Pat Riley. He was suspended for 2 games after he allegedly asked for a month off because he was tired from promoting his R&B album. What the fuck?
Okay.
So here we go. Malice at the Palace. Man, it gets tired when you're having to promote an album, man.
Right.
2004, Artest was at the center of an altercation among players and fans in Michigan. The brawl began when Artest fouled Ben Wallace. Wallace, upset at being fouled hard when the game was effectively over, responded by shoving Artest in the face, leading to an altercation. Artest walked to the sideline and laid down. Reacting to Wallace throwing something at Artest, Piston fans threw a cup of Diet Coke at Artest, and it hit him. Artest jumped into the front row, confronted a man he incorrectly believed to be responsible, which in turn erupted into a brawl. You remember this.
I remember this one, yeah.
Artest returned to the basketball court and punched Pistons fan, who was apparently taunting Artest. This fight resulted in the game being stopped with less than a minute remaining. You can still see this. If for some reason you've never seen it, go watch it. It's kind of wild.
I hadn't seen anything like it.
Artest lost approximately $5 million in salaries due to his suspension. Damn. Artest was arrested for domestic violence and was excused from the Kings organization. He was sentenced to 20 days in jail and community service. He spent 10 of those days. Artest was forced to relinquish ownership of his dog. It was a Great Dane because it was malnourished and neglected. Man, what's up with athletes and dogs, man? Just feed your damn dog. You don't have to kick them and electrocute them and do all this shit.
Right. I wonder if he had Michael Vick coming over and watched him while he's out.
Hey, can you watch my
games.
dog? I'm drinking this Hennessy downstairs and I'm
promoting my album.
This R&B album. It's smooth.
I'm too tired to take care of my dog.
Artest's name was officially changed to Meta World Peace. Meta was his first name and World Peace was his surname. Changing my name was meant to inspire and bring youth together all over the world. I bet that worked. I bet it worked. Artest was prescribed antidepressant medication, which he never used, but he flushed it down the toilet. He wore just his boxer shorts to Jimmy Kimmel and then had to go to a psychologist who helped him turn his life around. So Artest, 6'7", 260, but I mean, man, you're in the NBA, you're usually a pretty big boy anyway.
A lot of reach on that guy.
A lot of reach. I will say, though, this guy's been in like reality shows and stuff, and he's kind of a pussy acting guy. He doesn't come off as tough or anything like that. He quits like everything he's in. When the going gets tough, he's fucking quit.
I mean, you know what these reality shows should do then? They bring him on. Get that Pistons fan out there with a
pussy
with a bottle of Coke.
Yeah.
Or Diet Coke.
Megaphone.
Yeah. Just launch it at him. He'll win every reality show.
So this is interesting. Who do you have here? Let's talk it over. They're dumped on an island. You got a guy that's trained martial arts now for several fucking years.
Yeah, but he's no good at it.
There's the catch. You've been doing it for 8 years, and it looks like you haven't even been doing it for 8 minutes.
Right. And he got Ron Artest, where the crazy emotion only comes out whenever you hit him with a beverage.
Yeah, diet beverage.
A diet beverage. It's got to be diet.
Full-bodied stuff he's fine with, but don't.
Yeah, I mean, don't throw any Lagunitas at him.
Well, and you saw the brawl. It was wild. There wasn't no straight punches or anything. He just helicopter punches.
I mean, he caught the guy with the straight at one point.
No, did he get the guy
I
straight
think
in
one hit and it leveled the guy. It floored him.
Yeah.
I mean, if he connects with you, he's going to hurt.
Right.
That's why. Yeah, he's wild. He hadn't been trained, but I mean, he's
going to be more athletic than CM Punk. He's way bigger.
I think size and speed.
Yeah.
You know, he'd easily outrun CM Punk. He'd track him down pretty quick. He'd helicopter punch him to death.
So are you leaning towards Ron Artest?
I'm leaning towards Artest.
Just because CM Punk showed nothing. Yeah, straight edge.
Straight edge Punk.
Do you think he would drink and smoke after this?
I mean, Artest is going to do this while he's got a bottle of Hennessy in the other hand.
Oh, that's true. You know, Punk's, he's against that.
Right.
And Artest, that, you know, in Meta World Peace is Buddhism. He got that from Buddhism. CM Punk's an atheist. This isn't good. This isn't guys that like each other.
May the power of Buddha be with you.
Yeah. CM Punk might actually be a God-fearing alcoholic after this fight, though.
Would be interesting. We should check in with him after this is done, see if
Well, it's not.
he may need to go and see our test psychologist.
Just for I mean, I guess shits and giggles. I really don't know, because this would be sad. You would think a guy with 8 years of training at one of the best fucking schools in America, a blind resume. Okay, I'm just going to tell you what they've done and not tell you who they are. It would be CM Punk all fucking day.
Right.
But it's not.
But we have the glory of actually knowing who this guy is and watching his career. He's fucking terrible.
It's not good.
No.
So, just because CM Punk is a bitch, fuck him. Let's move on Ron Artest. Meta World Peace. Welcome to the final round of Athletes Combat 2. We start with number 1 seed Marvin Harrison taking on number 9 Scott Steiner. Not a whole lot to say here. If you listen to our very first show about this, Marvin Harrison, he owned some stuff in Philly. Kind of, you know, was involved with some bad guys. Lots of shooting and stuff, but Marvin didn't come off as like some aggressive alpha male or anything like that.
No.
And he's a small guy.
Steiner, ex-wrestler, ex-WWE champ. The guy's just a beast of a man.
Yeah, Michigan All-American. And they claimed steroid abuse.
Claimed is the key word.
That's hearsay.
Listen, we don't...
Rumor has it.
We don't discuss misinformation on this podcast.
That's fake news like a motherfucker.
It is fake news.
So the guy lifts a little bit of weight.
Right. Yes, so he is a freak of nature and actually has muscles growing out of muscles. Mm-hmm. It happens.
Once they pop.
Yeah.
They pop. Big Bad Booty Daddy. Great fucking nickname. I actually, this week, caught an old match of him and Rick Steiner, and they were facing, do you remember the Dudley Boys?
The Dudley Boys.
And this is no joke. They talked to Scott Steiner before the match, and this guy's like, "Oh, we're going to beat their fat asses. We're fat asses, because they're fat asses," and stuff. And I'm like, this is the greatest. This is the greatest shit ever. And it was from years and years ago.
Right. Was it before they kind of changed their persona?
Yeah, it was, I don't know, 2007 or something like that. So, I mean, he's got chainmail on his head. He's ripped. out of this world, flipping off everybody.
Oh yeah, so he'd already.
Oh, he's already.
Whenever, because it was Scott and Rick Steiner, right?
Yeah.
So I remember whenever they
barked.
both come in, they would wear the singlets and the headgear.
Yeah. This is way different. There's no varsity jackets anymore. Nothing like that. This is and he's flipping off people and shit like that. But anyway, you listen to the first show. Scott Steiner and his brother, man, if they didn't like you, they taped you to the wall and stuck Sharpies up your ass and pencils, and they're nuts. And they would chase you down in a car and try to kick out your window and open your door, hoping it was unlocked, and spill you out into what the hell is this? The guy said, "Hey, this ramp is closed." So what did Scott Steiner do? Hit him with his truck. Not closed when I drive it, So Scott Steiner, on top of being All-American wrestler,
roided out of his skull,
maybe,
allegedly.
Yeah. So not a whole lot to talk about here. You put them on an island together. Marvin's cardio's got to be really, really good.
I don't even know if Marvin's cardio is going to save him.
It'll save him for a while. Winner by annihilation. Scott Steiner. The 13th seed, the War Machine, taking on number 5, Pat Tillman. Now, we kind of just put in Pat Tillman as like a nod to kind of the badassery that he did. You leave millions of dollars on the table to go fight for your country. That's pretty fucking ballsy. And you even brought up, well, he had to go through probably extensive training just to, get to where he got. His death was unfortunate, though. Friendly fire from 10 yards away. 3 in the head from 10. That's terrible. Now on to War Machine, former UFC and Bellator fighter, former porn star. You would love for Tillman to, be our hero Goku and just go through all these assholes and stuff. But there's not a whole lot on Tillman except for, hey, he was a pretty tough safety in the NFL. And we're not discrediting that. And then he was, went and fought in a war. In comes, little cocksuckerish War Machine who will get into fights in public and behind closed doors. He'll fight you anywhere. And he's not a pussy either.
No.
So, decent UFC record. When he's not laying pipe to porn stars, he's dropping hammers on them, as in fists. You know what I mean? He'll saw off your mohawk with a butter knife.
I think War Machine, he just couldn't get enough training. I mean, he would go to bars after hours just to get more training in.
That's what it was. The gym's closed. What do? I have some energy. I have ADHD. My dick's hard. 13 pornographic films. How many do you have?
Me?
I mean,
0.
Released.
Oh, 0 released.
Yeah. Unreleased is just...
No comment.
Several terabytes.
Many terabytes. It would take a government supercomputer to contain all this.
Yeah. So I would love to just keep Pat because, obviously he's probably the better guy. By an inch.
Just an inch?
Well, I mean, we're still doing porn references, right?
Right. So wouldn't it be like 5.5 inches?
I don't know. I haven't seen any War Machines films. But who do you have? I just don't think there's enough Pat Tillman info out there. Now, granted, I think it'd probably be a hell of a big dude. Could probably, bring the heat on you a little bit.
Right. I mean,
War Machine
I'm pretty
not
sure
being the biggest motherfucker.
Well, Pat Tillman was Special Forces too.
Yeah.
He knew some hand-to-hand combat. I'm sure that he would give War Machine a hell of a fight, but I just think this is what War Machine does for a living.
Yeah.
He's going to wrap you up pretty quick. Yeah. Pull you down to the ground. And then what Special Forces training teach after that?
War Machine couldn't even commit suicide. Can't die. Body wouldn't let him.
Neck's too thick.
There's a lot of things thick on the War Machine.
I was talking about the one on his shoulders.
Oh, the other head. So you hate to say it, but War Machine, I think, moves on.
I agree.
So there we have it. That sets up a Maniac on Maniac semifinal. Up next, number 3, Sonny Liston taking on number 11, Rulon Gardner. Holy fuck. These are badass guys.
Yeah,
right
I
here.
think this is interesting here. This is an interesting fight.
Sonny Liston lived a tough life. The end of his life was very controversial.
Very true.
Now, as a kid, he had to he did some robbing, some robberies. So he was a badass little kid, and he moved on to boxing, where he was a pretty big badass there. You know, fought the Alis, fought the big names of his time. And then you got Rulon Gardner, who obviously Greco-Roman, so that's way different than boxing. That's also not the greatest thing on earth. Like, if you go to fucking grab Sonny Liston, I would think. But if you did grab him,
I don't know if you want to be within arm's length of Sonny Liston.
no, it would be one of those things that, like, he's either going to uppercut and kill you, or Rulon's going to get a hold of him and get him down, and it's over. And then Rulon's life, you know, having to get toes amputated because he, you know, crashed in the mountains. He had to make a tent. And then, you know, the plane crashed in the lake. So, you know, you got to go swim an hour to survive. But, you know, you go ahead and do that. And then, you know, you enjoyed a little too much food. So you balloon up to 500 pounds, but you go ahead and lose most of that. It's just, his life is crazy. You know what I mean?
Right. He's dealt with some adversity.
He fought MMA, but it was another just fucking terrible fight. So you can't really judge that too much. But they both just kind of stood there. A judo gold medalist and a Greco-Roman guy walk into a bar. Nothing happens.
Right.
You know. So.
Well, and once again, I mean, because I've done all the wrestling. I did the folk style. I did the freestyle. Didn't get too much into Greco, but I know what Greco is. It's all upper body.
Yeah.
Right? So you're not moving around quite as much as a folk style or a freestyle wrestler.
Yeah, if he was one of those two, I would give him a big advantage because you're shooting at the legs.
Well, and you got to keep in mind that no wrestler ever starts out as a Greco wrestler. Every single one of them start out as folk style. Every one of them.
Yeah.
Right? That's the toughest way to go. Folk style puts you everywhere. You're using every muscle in your body. Greco, and I don't want to take anything away from Greco wrestlers. They are badasses. They're just not moving around as much. You're just looking for throws, just all upper body stuff.
Snap downs, maybe.
Right?
If that's even
you can snap people down as long as you're not shooting on their legs. But then you got this boxer with some heavy ass hands, right? And if Rulon Gardner actually tried his hand at MMA, it didn't throw no hands. Just stood there?
Yeah, I mean, the hands he did throw wasn't anything special. Now, you've seen the Rulon Gardner MMA match. Does that sway you at all?
Not at all.
Right.
Not in the least. That just tells me that...
Just kind of reiterates what you were thinking?
Yeah, no, this guy's definitely not a boxer. He wouldn't be able to defend himself against Sonny Liston.
Yeah, that's why I said I'm a little torn because, I mean, if he did grab him, and I guess Liston just was shocked, you know what I mean? Like, then there'd be trouble there. But I mean, if Liston was just like a little bit disrespectful and just gonna throw some hands,
right?
He's probably gonna get this guy. Rulon's muscle twitch fibers aren't for boxing.
No. I don't know if he even knows what fast twitch fibers are.
No, he just know that he, you know, had him with his milk this morning.
Right. Well, that shit went away once he hit like 270 pounds.
Yeah. Well, which, you know, if we talk about people in their primes, his Olympic weight was just under 265. So, I mean, it's not like he was ever some ripped beast or anything.
Yeah, no, he's always been a big fat body.
You're going Liston?
I'm definitely going Liston. I think Liston beats the shit out of him.
Okay. Maybe I have it a little closer than you. Just if he can grab onto him. But the thing is, he has to grab onto him.
Right. A trained professional boxer, especially at that level, he's going to keep you at arm's length away. He's not going to let you get close enough to grab a hold of him.
Yeah.
He just wants to step in and touch you.
Yeah. And if he can get some uppercuts, hooks, and just keep you away with the jab, he'll win. So, moving on, we got Sonny Liston 10 seed Jack Youngblood taking on 15 seed Meta World Peace, a.k.a. Ron Artest. Now, again, there's not a whole lot of Jack Youngblood. He was, supposedly a badass guy, would play hurt. Big dude. 6'4", 250. So he's Artest's weight, 3 inches shorter. But not a whole lot about him. Just, a guy tried to kill him point blank. It didn't happen, so he knocked the guy out. Pretty badass, But I think if most of us, if that happened to him, we would try to beat the other guy's ass. So, I mean, it is what it is. But there's not a whole lot on Jack Youngblood. But just the little bit you hear, you would think he could handle his own against Ron Artest.
I would think so. I mean, this guy plays in one of the toughest sports in the world with a broken leg.
Yeah. Ron Artest doesn't even want to play for millions after he gets done promoting an R&B album.
Right.
So you can tell the difference.
Yeah, he can't compete after he pimps a CD.
So it's probably another kind of an easy one here.
I think so. I mean, Ron Artest is quick to fight, but I think against Youngblood, he might be quick to lose.
Yeah. And get Diet Coke spilled on his corpse.
Ooh.
I know.
What an insult.
It's one of my dreams, too. Moving on. Number 10, Jack Youngblood. Number 9, Scott Steiner. Taking on 13, War Machine. Another interesting one. Steiner, All-American at Michigan. War Machine, black belt in jiu-jitsu, MMA career. Steiner, MMA wasn't even a thing. So, I mean, he didn't even have the chance to go into that. I mean, this is like late 80s. UFC was like 93. Before that, it was, like, come to my gym and I'll spar you for props. You know what I mean? It's not. So, I mean, there wasn't really any fighting to get into. So Steiner never had that chance. I mean, he did, but he was already so.
Right. He probably could have crossed over because, I mean, you were talking about 2007 is whenever the match with the Dudley Boys or whatnot.
Yeah, but I mean, also at that point, he's probably 40. So.
I would say early 2000s he could have got into it, which, I mean, at that time you're talking about your Chuck Liddells and Tito Ortiz.
Yeah, but this dude was already past heavyweight. This dude is already yoked out of his gourd. This guy's not going to have any stand-up. Dude, these fucking massive bodybuilding pythons. I mean, if he hits you, I'm sure it'd suck. But the chances of him fucking hitting you is probably not that great.
There's I don't know what his striking is.
I mean, who does, right? Because he's trying to pull his punches. So, I mean, who knows? You know what I mean?
But he's that guy. I mean, if he grabs a hold of you, is just a wrestler. All he wants to get close enough, not just to touch you, but to grab you.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have him 100-pound weight advantage over War Machine. Again, a black belt in jiu-jitsu, though. So, I mean, he could try to guillotine you like they all fucking do because they're going to get taken down all night. But, I mean, as a black belt, you would think he would know enough to stay somewhat safe or try to get out of a bad situation. But again, Steiner wasn't training in all this stuff. So, I mean.
True. War Machine, that's the thing that I have an issue with is his strongest skill point matches up with Steiner. Because there's a lot of wrestling and grappling involved in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, I mean, but he's got hands. I mean, he's, like I said.
I think that's what separates him a little bit from Steiner.
Yeah, I mean, but he's a little bit tinier. But yeah, he would have to get in quickly. He would have to get in the lion's den and really hope that it lands.
Yeah, once you step into that, I mean, now you're coming into Steiner's world.
But War Machine, again, in the 14 MMA fights, the ones he's won, never a decision. You know what I mean? He's either subbing dudes or knocking them out. So, I mean, you can't.
Yeah, I don't think he's a bitch in this situation. Once again, you got a guy 100 pounds above your weight class. Do you have the power to knock him out? Which I think he might. Obviously, he's a trained fighter that knows how to hit really hard. Has Steiner ever taken any training on taking a punch? Throwing a punch?
He was just born in probably the wrong time. You know what I mean? Now, granted, you put, because if we're prime Steinering, obviously we're going to put him in senior in college or something like that. We're not going to put roided Steiner in because that'd just be weird. He'd be much slower, you would put All-American Michigan Steiner in there. So that's just pure fucking wrestling versus, an all-around MMA guy.
Right.
But he's not taking Steiner down. I think that's fucking guaranteed right there.
That would definitely be, he'd definitely be outclassed in the grappling area, which if you don't take him down, does that take your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu out of the equation? Largely.
Yeah.
You would definitely have to catch him on the fly in something.
Yeah. Yeah. Whether just a really, really quick punch or, just whatever. Transition, something like that.
Transition, very nice combo.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's just.
The main question is Scott Steiner's hands. Does he have any boxing talent at all? Because if he did, I think War Machine's in a little bit of shit. Now, if he doesn't, but we don't know. He's a fucking pro wrestler. We don't know if he has hands. Chances are he doesn't. My educated guess is no.
Even if he did have hands, he's not a trained professional like War Machine.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to be slow. It's going to be awkward.
He might not have much of a game plan on the feet, striking-wise, to be able to defend strikes either, which would be a problem. And then just the bedroom game. 13 adult films. That's big.
It's a lot of films.
There's a lot of films. I don't know. Either way, just getting off track. As much as I hate to say it, I think probably War Machine could take it just on knowing more. You know what I mean? But, man, it could go wrong for him, too. Yeah. So
he has to be nearly flawless in this fight.
Yes, and I think he can be, but damn.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea. This is a toss-up for me.
Okay. Well, like I said, I'll probably go War Machine just because.
Well, you know what?
UFC, but never fought like the who's who. You know what I mean? Never was a household name. Never fought like upper echelon.
He didn't give himself a chance to.
Well, no, he was already too much in shit. But the one thing you can say is like, when he was beating on a woman, he never knocked her unconscious or killed her like he said he was going to. He let the woman slip out of his hands. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe all that was by design.
Maybe it was, but he did knock a lot of teeth out, and he did a little damage.
I think that he was tired of UFC. He probably wanted that prison league.
Yes,
that's where the real fighters are at.
Prison fighting league. Yep.
I think I'm going to go with you on this. I'm gonna lean on War Machine here.
Yeah, just because the guy will fight you anywhere. He's
right, vastly more experienced,
unfiltered. He's wacky motherfucker. We're moving on to the finals. The War Machine. Next up, number 3, Sonny Liston taking on number 10, Jack Youngblood. Here we go. We have, all-time great boxer, right? Jack Youngblood, we don't know nothing about. He's a badass. He's tough. He'll knock out a guy that, isn't able to shoot him. But that's it. And that's, again, there's just not enough info. That's the kind of the Pat Tillman deal. I can't move him on here. There's not a whole lot to talk about. Liston grew up hard, fought the who's who, and was kind of still a badass dude until his dying day. So just off info, I have to move on Sonny Liston.
I largely agree. I think this is a tough fight that goes a few rounds. Youngblood, he's going to be aggressive. He's going to use his size advantage. But I think Liston's prepared. Throws several combos at him. He may not get him right away. He may not knock him out as quick as Muhammad Ali knocked out Liston. But I think over time he wears him down and eventually beats him.
Moving on to our finals. Sonny Liston. Now to our finals. The number 13 seed War Machine, which is appropriate because he has released 13 adult films, taking on The number 3 seed, Sonny Liston. Both guys, not great childhoods. One guy couldn't do CPR on his dad well enough or fast enough or whatever it is. Dad dies. He kind of spirals from there. Liston, poor, armed robbery, doing what he can to get by. Both turn to fighting, which, that can happen sometimes. One becomes a boxer, boxes some all-time greats. One becomes a black belt in jiu-jitsu, gets to the UFC. That's the place to be. Does well, but can't keep out of trouble. Sonny Liston apparently couldn't really keep out of trouble either, and controversy around his death. War Machine goes to prison, tries to commit suicide, doesn't happen. Instead, becomes just a blogger now. He's a hell of a blogger. Or vlogger, who knows? But I think it's blogger. I don't know. One thing Liston didn't have on him are these films he released. Big Tits at School, Mr. Chew's Asian Beaver, Naughty Office, Shady Pie, Pure Pleasure, and that would be Volume 2, Big Sausage Pizza, Shauna Goes to War. I think you get you get what I mean by that. She's going to war. Porn Star Athletics 3, Real Life Stories, and there you have it. That's just some of the classics that War Machine has put out. Mr. Chew's Beaver, I still watch that to this day. Who do you have here? You got an MMA guy, not as big as Liston, so you have, but maybe, if he doesn't cut, he's a little bit closer to Liston. Still going to be a little bit shorter. Stand up goes to Liston all day and night, but wrestling and jiu-jitsu should obviously go War Machine. The thing is, his jiu-jitsu's much better than his wrestling, so he's not, as far as I know, just a wrestling savant. Obviously knows how to do it, but you get what I mean. He's not, some All-American somewhere. So this would be an absolute, I think, crazy-ass fight.
Man, I once again, I think Liston's going to stick to his game plan of trying to keep it on the feet and throw some hands. What's interesting is you've seen some boxers that have tried to get into MMA, and it doesn't translate well.
It doesn't translate at all. They usually just get ankle picked, lay there like a dead turtle, and either get submitted or hit a couple times, and that's it. It usually, James Toney with Randy Couture is just fucking pathetic. There's nothing there. Yeah. Kickboxers can usually translate a little bit better because there's more attack, hands, elbows, knees, but it doesn't usually work out for them either all the time, unless they're just, unless they know enough to, push off and.
Yeah, well, usually their legs are their strongest point. They'll keep a wrestler, grappler, jiu-jitsu guy kind of at bay with a lot of leg kicking, a lot of kicks towards the head and the body.
Yeah, because one thing is if you really show you're going to shoot, you might get caught with a knee.
Right. Well, and nowadays, as big as combat sports is, everybody knows everybody. You'll watch tape on everybody.
And this is definitely an era thing because Sonny Liston couldn't get an MMA. It wasn't a thing. It's not even a thought for him. You know what I mean?
Right. So MMA fighters, they don't translate well to boxing either.
Oh, hell no.
Seen
hell
no. Mayweather versus.
That was just Mayweather McGregor was just a play with your food until I got sick of you. That was ridiculous.
Yeah,
that was just some spectacle. Bullshit.
I'm going to let him go for 5 rounds, and then round 6, we're going to put an end to this.
But don't get me wrong. This MMA guys that just go to boxing because it's like, oh, well, I hit the mitts. I'm pretty good at that. Get into boxing, and chances are, if the boxer's even remotely decent, man, you might get to the second round if he's
right. Well, even just some of the gym rats who never even actually go pro, just guys that work out with the pros. are nasty.
Yep.
Like, you don't want to throw hands with them.
Absolutely.
They are going to hurt you in a heartbeat.
Yeah. So I mean, this is one of those things. What do you lean towards more? You know, him getting a takedown on Liston, or Liston getting an absolute bolo on the War Machine?
Man, I kind of feel like War Machine has that ego where he's gonna want to stand up and see what he can do against Liston.
God, I would hope not.
Yeah, it'd be stupid on his part because I think Liston pieces him up pretty quick. So I don't know. I mean, War Machine has a chance if he can get it down to the ground, but how quickly does Sonny Liston let that go? Does he step in and start throwing haymakers?
Well, that's another thing is, like, did Liston have any wrestling training at all? Probably not. I always lean towards MMA fighters just because they have many more ways to win. You know what I mean? I mean, if War Machine had a brain, he could just fucking start kicking at his pencil legs, or, you know what I mean? Like, just figure out something. But you couldn't stand in front of the motherfucker for, like, any real amount of time.
True. So, but so my question is, does Liston not get a single punch off? I think if he catches him with one, he hurts him pretty quickly. Most professional boxers are going to catch him multiple times before a fight's done, even an MMA fight.
And other people were afraid of Liston.
Yeah, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think at some point, like Mike Tyson, he stated at some point in his career that he would never want to fight Liston. Liston was a scary dude in his day.
Yeah.
He was the Tyson of his day.
Yeah.
People didn't want to step in the ring with him until obviously Muhammad Ali came, Cassius Clay, and beat him twice in a row. But yeah, Liston was a pro boxer you didn't want to mess with. He hit hard. He rocked heavyweight champions. He beat people up pretty good. That's why, War Machine, little guy. Now, obviously he didn't make it too far into his career. I mean, if he'd won the belt 2 or 3 times, held it for 5-6 years, worked over some amazing fighters over time, then I might look at it and say, hey, you know what? Man, War Machine, he has something he could show Liston.
I look at it like this, Liston will probably be a little bit drugged up. War Machine may have an erection. I don't know. I
hope he has an erection.
But War Machine couldn't finish off a tiny little porn star. I'm not on film, yes, but in real life he can't.
I mean, even on film, could he?
I don't know. I have to watch that Mr. Chow's a little bit in slow-mo because I think there was a time.
Watch it again?
Yes.
For the umpteenth time?
So, you know what? You let Christy Mack get away, I think Liston's got you.
Right, yeah. Don't turn your back on Christy Mack or Sonny Liston.
Right, yeah. That's the motto. So, I'm locked in. I'm going Sonny Liston.
I'm going to go Sonny Liston as well. I'm going to agree with you. I think Liston pieces him up before War Machine has a chance to do his dirty shit.
And plus, fuck jiu-jitsu. The winner of Athletes Combat, Sports Combat, whatever the fuck you want to call it, the second edition, Sonny Liston. Congrats, Sonny.